साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, everybody. Happy Varahadvadashi. So today is Varahadvadashi, appearance day of Lord Varahadev, right? So whom did Varahadev kill? Why did he appear? Who knows about Varahadev? Why did he appear? You can all unmute, right? No.
From Brahmaji's nose.
Yeah, he appeared to kill whom?
Hiranyaksha.
Hiranyaksha, Hari bol. So Varahadev is the boar, male pig avatar of the Lord, right? He appeared to protect earth and kill Hiranyaksha. And today is the appearance day of Varahadev, right? So that is what we celebrate today. And yeah. So let's begin. Yesterday was chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, right? And what did we learn? Advancing in Ashtanga Yoga, Samabuddhir Vishishyate. So Krishna says you have to be equipoised, right, and completely focus, leaving all your external lifestyle, right, aside. You have to completely focus on your breath. You should start controlling your breath, sitting in the forest. Stages of Ashtanga Yoga we just saw, right? And then why control mind? And because otherwise mind will become a bestest of the enemies if you don't control, but if you control your mind will become your best friend, right? And how do you do that? Abhyasena tu kaunteya, Krishna says by practice you get it, right? Not otherwise, because we need to tame our mind with what? Mantra, right? The only way to tame our mind is by chanting the mantra. That too, mantra is not enough, we have to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Only Maha Mantra will be the right weapon for this. And destination of unsuccessful yogi, if you're not able to succeed in this life, and only if you're sincere in your practice, and if you're not able to succeed, then Krishna will give you Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. He'll put you even either in aristocratic home, or he will put you in a Vaishnava family, right, in your rebirth. And then Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system. Prabhupada also has written a small book based on this, right, saying Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga. No other yoga is going to equate. Even if you take up other yogas, right, it has to ultimately take you and leave you at Bhakti Yoga, right? So if you directly take up Bhakti Yoga, then you can go to Krishna faster. So that's what we discussed last time, right? Whether you choose lift or staircase, what do you want to choose, right? Intelligent people will definitely choose elevator because they want to do things faster, right? And yeah, from today it was Bhakti Yoga, right? Krishna talks about Bhakti Yoga or devotion service to the Lord in the next six chapters, 7th chapter to 12th chapter. And all our questions, right, all our questions will be answered in Bhakti Yoga, okay? Because Krishna talks about everything in these 6 chapters, okay? So the name of the chapter, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, or knowledge of the absolute, okay? So Krishna introduces himself to us in this chapter, right? He introduced himself in like second chapter also, saying he's Bhagavan. But in this chapter, from this chapter onwards, Krishna starts revealing more confidential details about him. That's why Bhakti Yoga is kept in the center, right? That sandwich example, you remember? The first bread slice will be like Karma Yoga, next bread slice will be Jnana Yoga, in the middle, the filling or the stuffing that gives the real taste for the sandwich, right? That is Bhakti Yoga. So it's kept in the middle. Why? Because it's guarded. It's guarded by the other two slices of bread. Other two yoga systems guard it, right? And here Krishna starts revealing the most confidential, innermost details, right? Which only devotees are supposed to know, right? Why Krishna keeps Bhakti Yoga in the middle is because non-devotees or devotees who are not interested, or any general public who are not interested in Bhagavad Gita, they quit. First six chapters they quit in second chapter, third chapter itself. If you still manage to reach till seventh chapter, that means you're very very fortunate, right? And you are meant to get the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and you are surely going to get it. That's the meaning. So Krishna also tests people. Not everybody is going to get this most confidential knowledge, right? So in 7th chapter to 12th chapter, all the details will be revealed. After that, nobody will leave, right? So first shloka, so Krishna starts speaking. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yata Jnashyasi Tachrunu. So now here, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me? See, Krishna is saying, right? Krishna is saying by practicing yoga in Krishna consciousness. That is real yoga, right? Bhakti yoga is the real yoga. With mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Many people say, no, oh, where is God? I can't see him, right? So, if you want to see God, first we need to deserve it. We have to get that capability, right? Like we can't see so many things. In darkness, we can't see our own hand. Forget about anything else, right? When there's no light, you can't see your own hand. You can't see your own self. You need torch and etc. etc. When there's power cut and all that, right? So same way, we don't why we can't see anything in the dark, because there is no light. Right now, if you're not able to see Krishna, it's because you're in darkness called ignorance, right? So Krishna says that ignorance should be illuminated with the light of knowledge, right? That's why we chant the Guru mantra, right? Beginning of the class, Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That means, oh Guru, I'm in darkness of ignorance, right? Please, you are the guru who can come and dispel all the darkness and illuminate it with knowledge. Jnananjana Shalakaya, right? That's why we have to always pray. And Krishna says, with mind attached to me. When mind gets attached to Krishna, then automatically ignorance will go, right? So how to do that is what Krishna explains in these 6 chapters. Okay, then we can know him in full, and we can see Krishna face to face, meet him face to face, right? That's very important. And free from doubt. All kinds of doubts go away from our mind. So I shall now declare unto you in this full in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and nominal, right? So this is what Krishna is saying. So मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद् यतति सिद्धये यतताम् अपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन् मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Right? So this is an example. See, there's an example. So in class, let's say there are 50 students. Okay, and the teacher teaches all the 50 students. But do you think all the 50 students get first rank? No. All the 50 students get 90%? No. Right? Only few struggle and work hard and study well. Right? And they will be managing to score above 90 or above 80%. Right? Rest will either fail or get very less marks, 70s, 60s, etc. etc. Right? Same thing applies to this as well. There are many thousands of people, out of which only few endeavor for perfection in spirituality. Even out of those few, I mean, in fact, very few people even want to, out of curiosity or whatever, even want to know about spirituality. Many people Today I met a devotee. I had gone for Sunday feast, right? Not a devotee, actually just a person, right? So he came to the temple and he was standing outside. So I was like, why don't you come inside? So he said, no, no, there's some Bhagavatam and all that discussion going on. I don't like all that, let me not just get into all that. It's a trap, right? Let me not get into all that. This is the word he used. Can you imagine? He said, I don't want to get into all this, right? I'll stay out only. I'm just waiting for my friend and I'll just go. Can you imagine? So this is how people are, right? And if you are still here, if a particular person is, what do you call, craving for spiritual knowledge, right? Either out of curiosity or out of love and devotion, right? At least out of curiosity, that person wants to know about spirituality, right? Scriptures and etc. etc. Still appreciated, right? There are a lot of people who do not want to voluntarily, they refrain themselves from getting into all this, getting into the real nectar of life, right? So that's what Krishna is saying. Krishna knows everything, right? He's saying there are thousands of men, out of which one may endeavor for perfection, and those who have achieved perfection hardly knows me in truth. This is the situation of today's world. Bhumirapi analo vayu kamano buddhirev cha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtata. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Altogether, these eight comprise my separated material energies. So, now the question is, we are all, see, Prabhupada says once you get into Krishna consciousness, you're declaring a war against Maya. Maya means the external world, right? The illusion, the suffering, all this, right? So now the question is, Maya means what? Maya means the material world, the external world. And earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, these are all belonging to external world only, right? Our body is made up of these five elements, Panchamahabhutas, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, and mind. Fire and air, right? These five elements. And our subtle body, this is the gross body, and the subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego, right? Now the Krishna is saying these are all my separated material energies. Now, but Prabhupada says you declare war against Maya, right? So is Maya not Krishna's energy? Yes, Maya is Krishna's energy. And then why are we declaring war against Krishna himself? Right? That is the question all of us get, right? So the answer is that Maya is a bewildering force. Okay, bewildering. Her duty, Maya is who? Mahamaya, Durga Mata, right? Parvati Devi. So her duty is to bewilder us, attract us, allure us, by giving all, externally good looking things, right? Money, wine, women, wealth, people say, right? The three W's. Wine, women, wealth, this is what she gives to allure us. Okay, and if you get allured by this, you fall into the trap. Okay, you fall into the trap. And after and even after janmas and janmas and janmas, it's very difficult to come out of it, right? Because it's so attractive that you're not able to see the other side of it, right? The other dark side of it, you're not able to see. Even if you see, because of the ignorance, you're not able to understand it is, yes, it is the dark side, I'm falling into the trap. No, because of the ignorance, right? Why does she do this? Right? Because it's like Prabhupada says, this material universe, earth for example, is a jail. Okay, is a jail, and we are all prisoners. Okay, we are all imprisoned in the jail. Who is the jailer or the officer taking care of the jail? That is Mahamaya, Durga Mata. Okay, she is the officer. And who has appointed her? The king or the government, right? That is Krishna. Okay, so this Durga Mata is a pure devotee of the Lord. Okay, pure devotee of Krishna. It is said, no, in Brahma Samhita, what it is said, Shushti Sthiti Sadana, Shushti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chaye Vesya Bhuvanani Bhivarti Durga. So she is like a shadow energy of the Lord. Okay, not the real energy, but the shadow energy. That means dark energy. Chayeva yasya. Chaya means shadow, right? The dark energy of the Lord, or the external energy of the Lord. And she is appointed by the Lord himself for this work of bewildering us, right? Why she bewilders us, why she allures us, is because she wants to release only the purest of the souls out of this jail and send us to Vaikuntha or Goloka, right? If you want to get out of this prison, that means you need to show to Durga Mata that you are not interested in her allurements or attractions. Rather, you are only interested in Krishna, right? It's not easy, no? Krishna is not cheap. Krishna is not easy to achieve. There is a lot of, you need to deserve that ability, right? Otherwise, everybody in the class will get first rank. No, you have to put in that effort and study hard day and night. Then only you'll get first rank, right? Same way, to achieve Krishna or to attain Krishna, you need to show very, very hard. I mean, you need to put in that hard work, effort, dedication, determination, and show that you are not interested in Maya, rather you are interested in Krishna alone, right? And the moment she gets that assurance, she releases you, and after you leave this body, you will go straight back to Goloka, right? Where you never come back. That's why Krishna is saying, these are all my energies only. This external material world is Krishna's energy only, right? It's not very different. He has only appointed all these energies to do all this to us. Why? For our own benefit. If we get purified and go to Krishna, we will never come back again to this material world and struggle, right? Besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mine, which are all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe, right? So now, this is the external energy we spoke about, or the inferior energy, right? That is the Maya, or the dark side of his energy, right? Now there is something called superior energy, right? Or the internal energy, right? Who are those? Those are we, souls, all the living entities, Jiva, right? Bhagavad Gita deals with 5 things: Paramatma, or Ishvara, right? And then Prakriti, that is the Maya we just discussed, material world, right? Next is Jiva. Jiva is us living entities. We are the superior energies of the Lord. We are in fact superior to the material world. We are superior to Durga Mata's bewildering energy, right? Still we are getting bewildered. Why? Because we have forgotten, the soul has forgotten the real nature of the soul, right? I told you in the beginning of the beginning of the this course as well. Because we've forgotten our real nature, right? The Satchitananda attitude, our real position. What is our real position? Servitor of the Lord, right? Because we have forgotten that, we are getting bewildered, right? And by doing all this, giving us sufferings, Maya Devi is just reminding us, your position is not to enjoy here. Why are we suffering? Because we want to become mini Krishna, enjoy, right? We don't want to serve. We don't want to become servant of Krishna. We want to become Krishna, right? Lord over him. That's why she reminds us by these sufferings that, why are you simply trying just dry attempts of becoming the Lord? You can never become the Lord. Rather, you're the servant. When you do your natural duty, that's where you get the real happiness from, right? So we have to, she reminds us by doing all this. And any intelligent person, after reading scriptures, will come to this understanding and starts fighting against Maya in the mind, right? Controlling the mind, from taking it away from the allurements and focusing it on Krishna. That is called sadhana. That is all sadhana means. Sadhana means nothing different. Sadhana is just, making sure, preventing ourselves from falling into Maya by attaching it to Krishna's lotus feet, right? And then Krishna also says, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread, right? So now there is think of an example, okay? Think of this necklace. There's a thread, there's a string, and then to that string only all the pearls are strung, right? Now, when the necklace is made, people cannot see the string. They can see only the pearls. But who is supporting the pearls? Right? It is the string. Like the kite, right? When the kite is high up in the sky, they only see the colorful kite. We don't see the thread that is supporting the kite, right? Same way, this in this material universe, all we see is Durga Shakti. Everywhere there's only material energy, right? So we see Durga Shakti. We are not seeing that supporting element, right? Giving the provider for Durga Shakti, we are not seeing. Who is that? That is Krishna. Okay, that's what Krishna himself is explaining, right? Like how the pearls are strung on a thread, everything rests on him, rests in him. He is the who is that? Adhara Shaktim Avalamya Swarupam, right? He is the Adhara Shakti, or the main supporting element or the supporting power of the entire universe, right? Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both its origin and dissolution. Can you imagine? We think, okay, material world only is what Krishna has created because we do not know anything about the spiritual world. But spiritual world is also created by Krishna, right? There are hundreds, thousands of Vaikunthas, or not one Vaikuntha, right? We will see, if we get a chance, we will see Goloka chart. There you'll understand, right? And that spiritual sky is 75% of the sky, and only 25% is material world, the universe that we are seeing. And this is just one universe that we are staying in. There are millions of such universes. Each universe has its own set of Brahma, Vishnu to create and maintain. Can you imagine? This is, and you can imagine, right? In this entire cosmos, you are just like a mustard seed. Can you imagine? And we think we are only big, our problems are big, our achievements are big, right? That is our position. And for all this, who is the origin? Origin and dissolution. The source of origin and dissolution is the Lord Himself. That is Krishna, right? That is Krishna. See, that is Krishna. Can you imagine, right? And these three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are the guna incarnations of the Lord, gunavataras, or qualitative incarnations of the Lord, right? They are situated in their a particular quality to do their task, but they emanate from Krishna. Vishnu emanates from Krishna, Brahma emanates from Krishna, Shiva also emanates from Krishna, right? So they are empowered by a particular quality, like Brahma is empowered with the quality of creation, right? Passion. So he is into creation. And Vishnu is empowered with the quality, as in he is in charge of the quality of goodness, right? So he's maintainer of the entire universe. And Shiva is in charge of the quality of ignorance or mode of ignorance, right? And so his work is to destroy. But he destroys only upon the orders of Krishna. They all these, three do not do anything upon their own will. They follow the instructions of Krishna. Okay? Next. Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhamsi shashisuryayah pranava sarva vedeshu shabdakhe paurusham rishu. So Krishna starts introducing himself, right? His potencies and everything, so that we understand he is great and we are nothing in front of him and immediately surrender to him, right? So what does he say? I am the taste of water. He is the taste of water. Can you imagine? Taste means what? Water is tasteless. Science proves that. So what taste is Krishna talking about? When you drink water, you get a kind of satisfaction, right? So much of satisfaction when you're drinking, right? Especially when you're so thirsty and you drink water, you get some kind of taste and satisfaction. That is Krishna, right? The light of the sun and the moon, moonlight and sunlight, is Krishna. The syllable Omkar is Krishna, right? And sound in the ether is Krishna, and ability in man is Krishna. If you are able to do something, understand, remember that ability is coming from Krishna, right? So let's not be proud of whatever we are doing today. That ability is Krishna, right? If that ability is not there, we won't be able to do it, right? If you're able to sing well, that ability in you is Krishna. Thank. So when you thank instantly, when we start showing gratitude for the abilities that we have, the pride feeling goes, right? And humility comes. And when you get humility, that's the first step of spirituality. Then you can say, yeah, I'm in the process of becoming a devotee. But if you are proud, that too against Krishna, right? Then how will you become a devotee, right? So we need to thank him rather than being proud, right? So this is what Krishna explains. The taste of water is Krishna. The light of the sun and moon is Krishna, right? The Omkar of the Vedic mantras is Krishna, right? So the sound in the ether is Krishna. Ability of a man is Krishna. The fragrance of earth, especially when it rains, when you water your gardens and all, you can smell the earth. That fragrance is Krishna, right? The heat in the fire is Krishna. If the fire doesn't have the capacity to make something hot, it's not called fire. Have you seen cold fire? No, right? So that means the essence of everything is Krishna, right? The fire's quality is to make something hot, and that heat is Krishna. Can you imagine? The life of everything that lives is Krishna, right? If that life goes, it's not called living thing, it's called non-living thing or dead body. So Krishna is the one that giving life to everything, right? The penance of the ascetics is Krishna. The original seed of all existence is Krishna, right? Aham bija pradapita, Krishna says. He's the supreme father, right? He's the one who gives life to everybody. So he's the seed giving father. And then intelligence of the intelligent is Krishna. If you say you are intelligent, that means you should have intelligence. No, then only you can say you are intelligent. And that intelligence is Krishna. Can you imagine? Okay, if a man is powerful, he's powerful because he has prowess, and that prowess is Krishna. Can you imagine? If you're strong because you have strength, and that strength is Krishna, right? And sex life, not contrary to religious principles, is Krishna. That means sex life between husband and wife for children, not illicit, extramarital, premarital, etc., etc. Right? That is Krishna. And then all states of being be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I'm not in. But I am independent. I'm not under the modes of this material nature. So there is material nature, right? We just spoke about the material nature. So this material nature has three modes. Okay, you can see in the picture, right? It's called Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Sattva-guna means mode of goodness. Rajoguna means mode of passion, and Tamoguna means mode of ignorance. Okay, so now what are these each modes are? Mode of goodness is you're good. You're just doing your work and you're getting what you have to get for your work, and you're good. Okay? Mode of passion means over endeavoring, greedy, right? I'll do overtime for incentives in office and all that. You want more, you're just not satisfied with what Krishna has given you, right? That is mode of passion. Mode of ignorance is like bad people, okay? Drinking, smoking, drug addicts, right? Mad people, killing, murdering others, right? Killing themselves. These suicidal tendencies will be there, no? Such people, right? All the time sleeping, not doing any work, depending on others for money, right? All these people come under the mode of ignorance. They're so lazy, and they just spoil their entire life doing all the bad things in the world. That is mode of ignorance. Okay? And now these three deities represent the three modes. Okay? And you can see in the picture, these are us living entities. And what are we? Puppets under these modes, right? So a character of a person depends on which mode is acting on that person, right? If you're in the mode of ignorance, that means this ignorance, I mean, if you're bad, if you're doing all these bad things that I just mentioned, right, that means this mode of ignorance is controlling you. Okay, this deity of ignorance is controlling you. You are helpless, right? You are helpless. They are controlling. They are puppets. You're just a puppet. We are all just puppets, and they are controlling you. Okay, and however they control you, dance according to that, right? And then who is Krishna? You can see Krishna is independent of these modes. He is above them. So these three modes are energy of Durga Mata, okay, or the material nature. Now Krishna is not going to be controlled by them. That's why Krishna says, I create these modes, but I'm beyond those modes. I'm transcendental to those modes, Krishna says. So what is he saying? I'm independent, right? I'm not under the modes. Krishna is superior to that. So the solution, if you don't want to become a puppet to these modes, what you should do? You should bypass the modes and start worshipping the Lord. You should surrender to the Lord. Leave your, what do you call? I, mine, and my factor should go away. I like this, I dislike this, all that should go away, right? And rather you should transform that to he, his, and him, right? Me, mine, and my should go away and get transformed to he, his, and him. That is Krishna, right? He means Krishna. So when that happens in your life, then your these modes will stop acting completely, because they are servitors of the Lord. Because these deities are all devotees of the Lord, they will support another devotee. But if you're non-devotee, then they will start doing their job, because that's what they are appointed for. Krishna has appointed them personally for this job. Okay, so if you surrender to Krishna directly, then the modes will not act on you, and you will get eternal happiness. And that's exactly what Krishna consciousness movement is all about. Okay, deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Because we are deluded by these three modes, right? Because of that, Krishna is only saying all this, right? Because of that, people do not know him, right? That's why people don't know who is Krishna, why he does things that he's done, his leelas, right? Nobody knows, nobody understands what he does. We need qualifications to understand Krishna Leela, right? He's done so many things. All we know is we sit and comment or question. Oh, he did like this. How can he do like this? Right? We need to rise above the material morality and material philosophy and go to the transcendence. Right? But that we can do only by understanding Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? दैवी हि एष गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया माम एव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायाम एताम तरन्ति ते. So now Krishna is saying how to overcome this Maya. So what is he saying? Daivi hi esha gunamayi. This material nature made of these three modes, right? Goodness, ignorance, and passion. They are Daivi hi esha, my energy only. They are all Daiva, right? They are divine because it is all Krishna's energy only, right? Mama Maya Duratyaya, but very, very difficult to overcome. Very difficult. Mama Duratyaya means very, very difficult. Okay? Mom, then what is the solution? How long should we be the puppets? Right? So what is Krishna saying? Mam evaye prapadyante. Surrender unto me. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Can you imagine? We have to surrender to the Krishna, to the Lord, to the lotus feet of the Lord. Then immediately this modes will stop acting on us. And you don't have to be puppet anymore. Okay? So Krishna compares it. You can see the ocean here. It's so difficult, no? This even if you're a champion swimmer or whatever, it'll be very difficult. Say some natural calamity happens, some tsunami comes, floods come, you will not be able to swim that easily and cross through, right? So otherwise all the swimmers would be alive, right? We read in newspapers, in history also we've seen swimmers crossing over these, they take up these rays, right? These championship and all that competitions of crossing some ocean and all of them won't successfully reach. Some people die, right? So because and Krishna is comparing this big ocean to the material existence, so wavy, and every moment you are just struggling for your existence. I mean, look at the situation of our own life, right? We don't know what happens next moment. Death can happen, right? What is the assurance that I will be living for so and so years, right? Successfully. Some natural calamity might happen, right? Some disease might attack us. Some accidents might happen, right? No guarantee of our own life. Still we sit and make plans. Years together we make plans, right? So that is Maya. That is Maya. The best example of Maya is this illusion, right? You do not know the truth. You do not know the reality, and still you sit and dream about your life, right? So that is how material world is. Every moment we struggle for existence, right? We do not even know how long we will be living, right? So it's like this deadly ocean, so much of waves and everything, and you're swimming alone over here, right? And you're trying to go to the other shore of the ocean. You're actually trying to go to the shore where you get some kind of peace and calm and everything. Here nothing. Some happy news is there, immediately after 2 minutes some bad news will come, right? So it's very flickering and everything, right? So that is only Maya, and it's very difficult to overcome. So Krishna says, do not worry. If you surrender to me, you can see in the picture, right? He personally comes and rescues you. You don't have to swim and go to the shore. You can just hold on to the Lord. He will come and drop you to the shore. Can you imagine? Right? Why should you put in your why should you struggle and go and all that when the Lord is there for us? Our Father, right? He is our Father. He will take care. But for that, you have to respect your Father the way you have to. Otherwise, even fathers at home, if you stop respecting them and if you just go against them, they'll say, okay, you go out of the house, right? So otherwise, they will take care of you, right? Same way. Namam dushkritino mooda prapadyante naradama maya parhata jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. So now Krishna is saying, people who cannot surrender to the Lord, whatever happens, they will not surrender. Who are such people? Miscreants who are grossly foolish, right? Moodha. And miscreants. Dushkritino are people who does criminal activities, and not just criminal, grossly criminal, even subtly criminal, right? Who has in their mind a bad thoughts about people, right? Such people are also considered miscreants. And then moodha are grossly foolish people. Foolish matlab atheists. They don't believe in God. Even after everything happening right in front of us, they still don't believe in God, right? They are foolish. And then lowest among mankind are like Naradhama, right? Like people who kill. There are people who even kill humans to eat, right? Murdering people and all that, right? They are lowest of the mankind. And then whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, Maya aparhata jnana, right? If Maya steals the knowledge, then you will go more and more deeper into Maya, right? And such people never do any charity, no helping nature, no goodness in their mind, right? They just want everything. They want, if they have money, they want more money. If they have properties, they want more properties, because they are just, their intelligence is stolen by Maya, right? Such people do not surrender unto me. Asurim bhavamashata, again, atheistic nature of demons. They do not surrender unto the Lord. Okay, so we have examples, right? Grossly foolish is this donkey and this man over here, right? You can see this man, the grossly foolish is the donkey, right? So this man is using the donkey to carry so much of load, and finally gives this donkey little blade of grass. That's it, right? Not much. The grass is available everywhere. This donkey can just go and have grass everywhere in the forest and things like that, in lawn and everything. Why the donkey has to work for this man? This is donkey, right? Grossly foolish. So human beings are also like that only. They think only if they work they will get money and they can live. Huh? Does tiger go to office? No, tiger gets food. Ants go to office? No, ants get food. Who is the provider? We already saw Vishnu is the maintainer, right? He maintains devotees also, he maintains non-devotees also. Who is giving non-devotees food? Vishnu, right? Krishna gives them also, right? So, if you just pray to the Lord, Krishna says in 9th chapter, how even without going to office you can get money, right? We will reach there and we will learn, okay? Let's not spoil the thrill. And then here, uh, what does it say? Yeah, Dushkrutino, these are very bad people, okay? They are actually Jagai Madai. They are very bad people. They are always drunk and they go rob people, exploit women, and all that, okay? They're very bad. Such people do not surrender to the Lord, right? And this is Ravan, okay? You can see, right? This is actually Ravan. And you know what he does? We know Ravan, right? What he did. He prayed for some immortality or something, right? And he also wanted to lay a staircase directly to heaven, right? You don't have to do good things to go to heaven, directly you can go to heaven. All that he wanted to do. And see how bad he is, no? Atheistic, demoniac nature. And he also wanted Sita Mata. Without Ram, he wanted Sita Mata, right? So all that is demoniac people. So such people will never surrender to the Lord. And next, चातुर्विदा भजन्ते मां जना सुकृतिनो अर्जुना अर्था जिज्ञासुर अर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभा. So now Krishna is talking about the four people who are surrendering to the Lord, or who approach the Lord. Not surrendering, that's too far. Just approaching, that in itself is big, right? So who are those four people? Pious men. Okay, these are all pious men. That's why they are approaching Krishna. So we learn the qualification of approaching the Lord. Not everybody approaches or can approach the Lord. Only pious people can approach the Lord, right? And who are those four kinds of pious people who approach the Lord, right? One who is distressed. Say you have so many problems in your life, right? Family issues, professional issues, financial issues, everywhere you have issues. Okay, so such, and if you don't go to others for help and rather you go to Krishna for help, then you are falling under this category, right? Four kinds of men, artho category. Okay, you go for help, right? You approach the Lord, you're not going for somebody else for help, you're going to Krishna for help. That is the artho category. Next, artharthi, right? That means you want wealth, lot of wealth, right? So for that, you're not going and asking somebody else for wealth, you're going directly to Krishna. That's not wrong. Krishna is our father. Instead of going to demigods, Lakshmi Devi and Kubera and that and this, you're directly going to Krishna. So you yeah, it's not wrong because you're asking your father, not your relatives or anybody, right? So that is right. So that is not wrong. And then the inquisitive is people who want to read Bhagavad Gita just to see what is there in it, curiosity, right? Oh, what is there in this? I want some knowledge, right? Such people are inquisitive people, that is jignasur. And then jnani, who's searching for the knowledge of the absolute, who are just searching for the Lord. That is Jnani category. Okay, so these are the four kinds of pious men. It's not wrong, right? Going for wealth for Krishna, to Krishna, going for solutions to Krishna. It's not wrong. Okay, because you're going to Krishna only. You're not going for anybody else, going to anybody else, right? So such people approach Krishna, but they cannot surrender to Krishna and become full devotees. Why? Because there is a high chance, if say you're distressed and you go to Krishna, when if Krishna solves your problem, you might, there is high chance for you to forget Krishna after that. Oh, my problem is solved, I'm happy. So after that you don't go to Krishna, right? You don't show that gratitude. There is high probability of that. Same applies to wealth. You go to Krishna for money, Krishna gives you money. After that you don't go to Krishna at all. You'll forget him completely. You are very happy with the money. And I told you, if Krishna gives you something, it's eternal. So if Krishna solves your problem, you will never get that problem ever again. So there is high chance for us to forget Krishna because that problem never comes again, right? And same applies to money. That money doesn't go away from you ever again because Krishna is giving you, right? And inquisitiveness. Again, if Krishna is fulfilling your curiosity is fully fulfilled. Your hunger for knowledge is fully fulfilled. So you might not turn the page of Bhagavad Gita again and read, right? And same applies to but the Jnani, he is not looking for anything in return, right? He doesn't go for curiosity, for money, or solution for problems, nothing. What he wants, he only searches for the knowledge of the absolute. He only searches for God. That's why Krishna says, out of these four categories of pious men, the best one is Jnani, the wisest, right? He is the wise man. Jnani is the wise man because he does not want anything. He just wants Krishna. That's it, right? So each category, there's an example here. This is Gajendra, right? So he comes under the category of distressed, right? He was very the crocodile has caught him. He wants, life. He wants to get rid of this crocodile, live longer, doesn't want to die. So he starts praying to Krishna, and then Krishna comes and gives him protection, right? Kills the crocodile and protects Gajendra, right? So this is the distressed category. Who is this next picture? Anybody knows? Who is this person?
Dushasan.
Okay, and what's happening here?
It's a part of Mahabharata. That's a Draupadi Chirana.
Yeah, so Draupadi is getting insulted here, right, by Dushasana and other people. Who is that? Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra and everybody,
Right.
right? So she is also in distress. She wants protection. She wants help. So she also surrenders to Krishna, calls him, right? Please protect me. And Krishna came and protected, right? She approached everybody. Five husbands, not one. She had five husbands. One of the husbands also couldn't save her, right? She had such big people like Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya. Nobody could save her, right? So finally, what she did, she approached Krishna. Only Krishna could save her. Another example, right? That when you approach Krishna during distress, because you approached him, he will save you. He will reciprocate, right? But if you don't call him, he will not reciprocate. I mean, he will reciprocate for not calling, so he will not come, right? And then, and this is Vyasadev's wife, right? She was pregnant for 16 years. 16 years, the baby is just not coming out of her womb. Okay, so because of the pain, she was crying and crying and crying. So she also approaches Krishna. Krishna, it's too much paining for 16 years, right? So Krishna comes and protects her, right? Delivers the baby. Shukdev Goswami comes out, right? And then this is Parikshit Maharaj. Who is Parikshit Maharaj? Abhimanyu's son. Okay, Abhimanyu is Arjuna's son, right? So Parikshit Maharaj was cursed that he is going to die in 7 days. So again distressed, right? So he also approached Krishna for help. He did not go here and there, oh, what should I do? How do I protect? Not to doctors or anything, or security guards or anything, right? He rather went and approached Krishna and he said, what should I do? I mean, he asked the learned devotees of the Lord, devotees of Krishna. And so that's how he got eternal life after leaving this world, right? Because he heard Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is Dhruva Maharaj. This comes to the money category. Dhruva Maharaj wanted money. So he went to the Lord. He never asked others, right? He wanted money, as in he wanted a kingdom greater than that of Brahma, right? He wanted the greatest kingdom in this world. Nobody should have had it ever, or should have it in future, right? That much big kingdom he wanted. Rich wealth and all that. So then he did not ask anybody. He directly went and asked the Lord how he did severe austerities. He was just 5 years old and he did severe austerities and he got something from Krishna. What is that? Dhruva star, right? Or the pole star, right? And it is imperishable. See, understand one thing, when Krishna gives you something, it is imperishable. Dhruva Maharaj left the world, went to Vaikunta. Still, that Dhruva star is still there in the universe. Scientists have also gone and seen it, right? So they say pole star and that and this and all that, right? So that is eternally going to be there. It's right next to what do you call, I mean, it's eternally going to be present even after the dissolution of the material world. Okay, that strong it is, because when Krishna gives you something, it's imperishable. And here also Sugriva and Vali, Sugriva wanted kingdom again, money, right? Money category. And that's why he approached Ram, and Ram fought for him, right? And got gave him back his kingdom, right, from Vali, right? So and he became, it never went away from him ever again, right? And so there are multiple people like that who approach Krishna for out of, and this is the sages of Naimisharanya. This is Jignasu category. Okay, they wanted to know what is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, curiosity. So they all assembled and they started asking Suta Goswami, right? Explain us what is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. We want to know, we want knowledge, right? So that is curiosity category. And then finally they all became full-time devotees. Their curiosity gone and it turned into devotion. They never left Krishna later. Okay. Yeah. Now, of these wise men, of these, the wise one who is in full knowledge in union with me through pure devotion service is the best. For I'm very dear to him and he is very dear to me. So that's what Krishna is saying. Out of these four categories, the Jnani category people are the best because they just want Krishna. They don't want anything. Not out of curiosity or problems or money or anything. Right? Bahunam janma namante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. See, what is Krishna saying? Bahunam Janmanamante. After many births and deaths, Janmas, only those who are in knowledge surrender to the Lord. Okay. And what kind of knowledge is that? Vasudevam Sarvamiti. That knowing that Vasudeva is all in all, everything is Vasudeva only, that is Krishna only, that is called real knowledge. Okay, if you get such knowledge, only such people surrender to the Lord, and such persons are sudurlabha, very rare, right? Very rare. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures, right? So here Krishna is again talking about demigod worship. So he is saying, see, in previous chapter, I think third, fourth chapter, I guess, right? If I'm not wrong, we learned about demigod worship. There Krishna said, the faith, right? Those who if you don't want to approach me, fine, you can approach demigods, because in either ways you are approaching me only, Krishna says, right? Because even demigods need to take from Krishna to give you what you want, right? But here, what is Krishna saying? This is higher level. That's why this is Bhakti Yoga. Only the qualified lot of people can get this knowledge, right? They stay, otherwise they leave the course, right? So this is what he's saying. Now he's saying those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods. That means here he is condemning, strictly condemning, right? If your mind is distorted by material desires, then you surrender to demigods. Otherwise, you follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures, okay? And follow the particular rules according to the demigods. Like Kali worship. Kali people, what do? They give non-veg food, offer wine and all that. She is Vaishnavi. She is Vaishno Devi. She will not touch non-veg. Still people do that, right? Why? Because they want to drink, they want to eat non-veg. So they say, oh, I will offer off to Kali, and we will say this is prasadam. So no harm in eating, right? But she won't even touch that, right? Because we just discussed, Durga Mata is a very, very serious, strong, pure devotee of the Lord, right? She will not touch all that. And so they just follow the rules and regulations according to their own natures. The Kali Mata doesn't touch it, but because their nature is ignorance, they offer all that, right? So it's not a what do you call, prescribed method of worship, right? It's not prescribed. It's not given in any shastras ki you have to go and offer wine to a goddess. No, right? So I'm in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship the demigods, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to a particular deity. Hari bol. Can you imagine? What is Krishna saying? Okay, fine, you still want to worship demigod. Krishna is sitting in the heart as Paramatma, and as soon as you desire to worship a particular demigod, he is the one who strengthens your faith to worship that demigod. Because you desire, Krishna makes way. Krishna in the heart, sitting as super soul, just his only job is to witness what you're doing and make way to fulfill your desires, right? And he fulfills your desires based on your intensity of desires. You're so bent upon worshipping the demigods for something. Say you want something badly, and say only that particular demigod can give you that. So it's Krishna who strengthens your faith in that particular demigod. If Krishna doesn't strengthen your faith, you cannot even worship that demigod. Then can you imagine what Krishna is doing for us? We are highly indebted to the Lord, right? We are highly indebted. And foolishly, we don't even realize that we are highly indebted, right? And otherwise, you cannot even devote yourself to that particular deity. Can you imagine? Not only that, there's one more. I was listening to a lecture, right? So what I heard was, say you go in front of Ganesha and you start praying. Okay, how will Ganesha know that you are praying for him? Or say you're sitting in at home and you're praying to Ganesha. You're just calling out his name. You're sitting in your bedroom and you're calling out his name and you're praying to Ganesha, right? How will he know that you're praying to him? Because Ganesha is not present in your heart. Who is present in your heart? Krishna is present in your heart as Paramatma. Ganesha is not present. Then how will Ganesha know? Anybody knows the answer? No one knows?
Krishna informs Ganesha.
Hari bol, exactly. It's Paramatma sitting in your heart. That same Paramatma is sitting in Ganesha's heart also. So Krishna is sitting in your heart. That same Krishna is sitting in Ganesha's heart also. So it is the Paramatma who informs Ganesha that so and so devotee is praying to you so badly, so sincerely, right? And then in return, what Ganesha does, he'll be like, oh yeah, he's praying to me, no, so much. So let me go request Krishna to give him what he wants, right? And then Ganesha goes and asks Krishna, see, this particular devotee wants this, can I give? And it's like, unless Krishna tells a demigod this is happening, demigod will not even know, right? So we need to be highly indebted to the Lord, right? And endowed with such a faith, he seeks favors of a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, those benefits are bestowed by me alone. This is what we just discussed, right? If a demigod is giving you something, it is Krishna who is actually giving you. Men of small intelligence worship demigods. See, Krishna is highly condemning demigod worship. He supported actually in Karma Yoga. That means depending on our levels, right? Krishna is actually revealing the knowledge, the true knowledge. Krishna is saying Alpa Medasa, small intelligence, no? Only such people worship demigods. And their fruits are limited and temporary. I already told you, it's temporary. You have to again run back. Otherwise, you should have got what you want. Once for all, should have settled. No. No, you again run behind the demigods, right? Because they are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet where there is no coming back. Okay? If you worship Shiva, if you go to Kailas, say, right, you come back from there again to earth. So Shiva will say, oh, I'm so pleased with your devotion. Okay, so that when you go to Kailas, he will say, oh, I'm so pleased with your devotion. So I will elevate you to the ultimate dham or ultimate destination, that is Krishna Loka, right? So he will send you back to earth and he will make you a devotee, right? And then you will offer devotional service from scratch to Krishna, and then you will ultimately go to the destination of the Lord. That is your ultimate destination. So whichever demigod you worship, right, if they are pleased with you, they will give you Krishna Bhakti and they'll send you back to earth. Then you will start becoming Krishna devotee. Then you will go back to Krishna, right? Because no place is permanent. They also ultimately dissolve during dissolution or destruction. Okay, unintelligent men who know me not think that I have assumed this form and personality due to their small knowledge. They do not know my higher nature, which is changeless and supreme. This is for the atheistic people. When Krishna came, right, to this world, Shakuni, Duryodhana, all of them, they thought he's just some normal human being. That's what they thought, right? But on the other side, Kunti Maharani, Arjuna, Yudhishthir, and all that, they were like, Krishna is not an ordinary person. Certainly not. He is God himself. He is Lord Narayan himself. That's what they thought. That's the difference, right? Unintelligent men think that he is just one normal human being who's gotten this normal body like ours, but that was spiritual body, that was transcendental body, which only devotees could see, right? Duryodhan, if otherwise how could Pandavas and Kunti Maharani identify his real self, right? Only because they were devoted, right? So you can see the Lord through your eyes of love, not through your normal eyes of logic, not, right? So if you think you can attain Lord through your logical eyes, trust me, even if you come back for 100,000 lifetimes, you will not be able to do it. You have to start loving him like your son, like your father, like your mother, like your spouse, right? You should love him. Create a relationship with him and start loving him. Then your eyes, material eyes, will transform to spiritual eyes or prema chakshu, right? Prema janacharita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti यन्श्यामसुन्दरमचिन्त्य गुणस्वरूपं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. What does it say? Premanjana Churita. When eyes are smeared with love for the Lord, pure love, then we can see the real Shyamasundara form of the Lord, not otherwise. Okay? I'm never manifest. See, Krishna is also saying, I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent people. So he remained some normal human being only to the eyes of the all these Duryodhana and Shakuni and all that, right? He never manifested. For them, I'm covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya. So Krishna protects himself from these people, right? He makes himself invisible, as in his real nature invisible, with a curtain of Maya, right? Yoga Maya. So they won't be able to reach him, right? Their eyes get covered. So the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. Oh Arjuna, as the supreme personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to happen. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. Right? So Krishna is Trikala Jnani. He knows everything in the past, present, and future. Esham tvantakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam tvedvandvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam dhrudavratah. Now the question is how to see the Lord. I already told you we have to develop the eyes of love. How to develop that eyes of love, right? So Krishna is giving you the answer for that also. How to develop love for the Lord. right? So people who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated. Okay, so how do we get our sinful actions completely eradicated? When you stop making the sins. That's why Prabhupada says you first start following the four regulative principles. Do not commit any more sins that you would have otherwise committed, right? What are those four regulative principles? Do not eat non-veg, and then do not gamble, right, with money, and then what else? No intoxication, right? Alcohol and smoking and all that, and then no illicit relationship or illicit sexual relationship, right? If these four things, if we stop, then we are assured, like we can rest assured that we won't be committing any sins in the future. Okay, so these are the major things. If you stop doing this and chant the holy name of the Lord, then all the sins that you will commit in future will be taken care of, will be prevented. You will not be committing. Then what are you left with? You only have to deal with your past sinful reactions. Because of chanting 16 rounds every day, if you chant, then your old accumulated sinful reactions will slowly start melting up. Krishna will burn them. You don't have to face the sinful reactions. Then you will reach this state. Sinful reactions are completely eradicated. When you reach this state, okay, you're freed from duality of delusion, and then you will completely engage. From your heart, you will surrender to the Lord and offer devotional service. When you do this, Krishna will change your eyes into love, right? Eyes of love. Prema Chakshu. Prema means love, Chakshu means eyes, right? And when you're changed to Prema Chakshu, you can easily see the Lord face to face, right? And so many people have done that in previous we can see that in Bhagavatam, right? Every chapter is a success story of a devotee. So those who know me as the Supreme Lord, as the governing principle of the material manifestation, who know me as the one underlying all the demigods and as the one sustaining all sacrifices, can with steadfast mind understand and know me even at the time of death. Can you imagine? Right? If you've been following this process, sadhana or Krishna consciousness in your life, and then at the time of death, you can easily know him. Can you imagine? Right? So, this is about today's chapter. Tomorrow's chapter, Krishna will be talking about how to remember Krishna at the time of death, so that when we die, we can go straight to Goloka, not to anywhere else. Okay. So, what did we discuss in this chapter? Glories of knowledge about Krishna, right? The ability of a man, strength of the strong, heat of the fire, and everything, right? Knowledge about Krishna's energies, the material energy and the spiritual energy, the inferior energy and the superior energy that we discussed, right? And now we also discussed surrendering unto the Lord, right? And then demigod worship, and then delusion to devotion, right? So, that's where we are. Yeah. Any questions? Anybody? Any inputs or any doubts? No questions? Then we can end. You understood everything or you didn't understand anything? Okay, fine. No questions, then we'll end. Attendance link is already shared, no? Chitra Mataji, can you share the attendance again? Okay. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। Thank you all. Tomorrow, please do attend. Right? We will be discussing about how to leave the body thinking about the Lord. Right? Now or sooner or later, we will have to leave the body. Right? So let's leave it with thought about Krishna. Right? So that we will at least get to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.